Chương trình phỏng vấn và tìm hiểu xin kính chào quý vị. Kính thưa quý vị, hôm nay chương trình chúng tôi được tiếp chuyện với cựu hạm trưởng USS Kirk, và bên cạnh ông là một người viết sử cho Hải quân Hoa Kỳ. Thưa quý vị, hôm nay trong câu chuyện với mục đích là Hải quân Hoa Kỳ chuẩn bị một cuốn phim nói về cuộc di tản của người Việt Nam vào những giai đoạn khi Cộng sản cương chiếm miền Nam vào ngày 29, ngày 30 và tiếp theo những ngày mà đoàn di tản của người Việt Nam đã được quân đội Hoa Kỳ cứu cũng như là hướng dẫn từ hải phận Việt Nam qua tới Phi Luật Tân, cũng như sau đó từ Phi Luật Tân tạm thời định cư và cư trú tại đảo Guam. Thưa quý vị, hôm nay chúng tôi tiếp xúc với hai vị chúng tôi vừa giới thiệu, đó là hạm trưởng Paul Jacob, ông là hạm trưởng của chiến hạm USS Kirk, đó là tên của chiến hạm, và người kế bên là ông Jen Herman, ông là người viết sử và chuẩn bị cuốn phim. Đây là cuốn phim lịch sử sẽ do bên Bộ Hải quân thực hiện. Và thưa quý vị, với tựa đề cuốn phim là The Lucky Few, chúng tôi xin tạm dịch số may mắn hiếm hoi. Đây là câu chuyện của người di tản. Okay, welcome. We are the Vietnamese Public Television. We welcome Ship Commander USS Kirk and also the historian of the Navy Medical Department, Mr. Jen Herman. Okay, welcome, Captain.
Thank you, sir.
Okay, we would like to have some word for the introduction now.
Well, I started this process about 2004, and I got a call from Mr. Herman, who said he would like to talk to my medical staff, and I laughed. We only had one corpsman, and how did you rescue 30,000 Vietnamese? I said, with a great deal of difficulty. And then he convinced the Admiral Robinson, the Navy Surgeon General, to produce a movie of the rescue of the Vietnamese Navy. And he's in the process of doing that by doing interviews. We've done some interviews with the Vietnamese already. My assessment of this is there's two profound emotions going on here. When you have a crew of 240, 110, 115 of them are 17, 18, 19, 20-year-olds. They desperately want to know what happened to the people they rescued. On the other side, I get emails all the time from the Vietnamese. Can you tell me what happened to this seaman who took care of me on board the Kirk? So those Vietnamese are so profoundly want to present their gratitude to the people who helped them. So those two emotions are powerful. And I really thank Mr. Herman for convincing the Admiral that this untold story needed to be produced. So I turn it over to Mr. Herman.
Mr. Jacob, when was the year you were retired from?
I started in the Navy in 1958, and I retired in 1984 as a Navy captain.
So that means 9 years after 1975,
right.
The collapse of the South Vietnam.
Right. And coming up with 30 American flags and sending in officers to these ships to strike down the colors, reduce their Navy to nothing, then stood it back up. That's how we, on the way we were going to get into Subic Bay. Must have been absolutely profoundly emotional to these commanding officers to lose their ships and their flags. One of these gentlemen came to our 2005 reunion, and the lieutenant who raised the American flag on his ship found this captain and gave the American flag to him. And he came to the reunion, those two flags sewed together, and said, when I go into the ground, those two flags are going with me. And he tremendously emotional.
Mm-hmm.
We are trying desperately to find the CH-47 pilot who dropped 50, 60 people on my fantail from 45 to 50 feet up, and then he rolled it to the starboard side of the ship and rolled it right and jumped into the water, and we rescued him. So we want to find him.
Do we have the film or the picture of that incident?
Yes, I have.
The helicopter you just mentioned?
I have a beautiful picture of the CH-46 coming unglued, and you can see the pilot in the water. So, and that's pretty profound because most pilots who ditch helicopters don't live. I think the other.
What the location, you know, your ship was in the Vietnam's?
We were stationed 5,000 yards off the embassy.
So that means between the Vietnam and the Concern Islands,
Right.
in the between, around there?
Well, the first part of it was the Operation Frequent Wind, which only lasted a few hours till we got them all out of there. And we were headed to Subic Bay, and then Mr. Armitage got up to the 7th Fleet himself and spoke to him that we got to get the Vietnamese Navy out of there. So they transferred him from the Blue Ridge to the Kirk, and we steamed full speed.
What days was that?
I think that was a night of the 30th, as I recall. And we tried to get them underway before daylight so we wouldn't be detected. And they took all my crew, and they went around each ship, started them up, made sure they had enough fuel, and headed them east. We rounded them up the next day. And amazingly, we pulled it off without them knowing it. Is amazing in itself. So.
Okay, I was on that, one of that 32 ship.
Right.
You just mentioned about. Let's look at the picture here. At that moment, I am the photographer. Okay, for that I have a few one.
Right.
I do have, but I would like to share with you. This is the one I shoot, you know, back to the Concern. Okay,
Right.
the ship I shoot to the Concern, and this is the carrier 800, the Vietnamese carrier,
Right.
and this is another destroyer, the Vietnamese, right next to my ship.
It's like a PC.
Yes. Okay. We reached back in Philippines about before we entered the Subic Bay. And then this the commander, the ship I go with, you know, he transferred.
That's one of the Lamps pilots.
Yes. Okay. So that is the one, you know, the picture.
You'd like to get those pictures.
Yes.
Yeah.
Oh, yes.
That the picture I took it, and I took that picture back in 34 years ago.
Right.
So I share with you, you know. So okay, continue, sir.
The other thing that's always profound to me is that we had several pregnant women on board, and I kept telling them, if you're born on this ship, you're a U.S. citizen, so get busy. They all laughed, but one of these moms decided she was going to name her baby after the USS Kirk. The baby was born in Guam. We now have the birth certificate to prove it, except she had a girl. So this Vietnamese lady, now 34 years old, is running around trying to explain why she has a boy's middle name. And I'm sure that's been told many times. Both the mom and the daughter are members of the Kirk Association, and they're dedicated to coming to our reunion, and they've been very supportive. One incident happened on board. One of the small children, a boy from a family of, they had, I think, 7 or 8 children. The only boy, he died on board the Kirk. And we were in a dilemma of what to do, and we can't leave him on board because we don't know what kind of diseases he has. And so
How old is the boy? How old is the boy?
he was less than a year. Or something.
A few days. He was just maybe 10 days.
10 days.
He was
10
an
days
infant.
old.
He was an infant. Yes.
So when he died, the corpsman and the chief executive officer got together. We decided, let's have a formal military funeral, and all dressed up in our white uniforms at midnight. And we wrapped him in the American flag and the Vietnamese flag and slid him into the South China Sea. I did not meet that woman again until I had made a port visit in Guam about a couple of months later. And we went up to the refugee camp, and because a lot of 32,000 of those folks, all they remember is the hull number of the Kirk, the 1087. And she came up to me and got down on her knees and just thanked me how we handled the death of her son. I'd like to find her. But none of this would be out. This untold story would still be buried for years to come if it wasn't for this gentleman to my left here, Mr. Herman.
Yeah, and after briefly we heard the story from Captain Jacobs. Okay, this is a remarkable story about the Vietnamese refugees during that time, and the film is prepared for it. Okay, today